March 12th, 2026, 3:47 a.m. local time, Prince Sultan Air Base, Saudi Arabia. Alert sirens wailed across the flight line where 5 KC-46 Pegasus tankers sat in reinforced shelters. American air crews sprinted toward their aircraft. They didn't make it. Iranian ballistic missiles struck the base with precision that should terrify every military planner in Washington. 4 direct hits on hardened aircraft shelters. 5 tankers destroyed, not damaged, destroyed. And here's what makes this attack different from every missile strike that came before. Iran didn't hit a symbolic target. They didn't strike an empty runway or a minor installation. They destroyed the aircraft that allow American F-35s and F-15s to reach Iranian airspace in the first place. Without tankers, American air power in the Middle East just lost half its range. Let me tell you exactly why this matters. The KC-46 Pegasus is a $160 million force multiplier that extends every combat aircraft's operational range. Each tanker carries approximately 212,000 pounds of fuel, enough to refuel 6 F-35s mid-flight, extending their combat radius from 670 to over 1,200 nautical miles. Do the geography. Prince Sultan Air Base to Iranian targets approximately 800 to 1,000 nautical miles depending on the route. An F-35 launching from Prince Sultan cannot reach Tehran and return without refueling. The physics don't allow it. The tankers made those missions possible. Past tense, made. Iran just eliminated that capability with 5 missiles. Here are the numbers that explain what just happened. The United States Air Force operates approximately 50 KC-46 tankers total. 5 just got destroyed in one attack. That's 10% of the entire fleet. But the operational picture is worse than the raw numbers suggest. Of those 50 tankers, only about 30 are typically mission ready at any given time. The rest are in maintenance, undergoing upgrades, or positioned at bases worldwide. In the Middle East theater, the U.S. had perhaps 12 to 15 tankers deployed. Losing 5 in a single strike means that tanker availability just dropped by 30 to 40% in the region, where American air operations are most critical right now. The human cost compounds the strategic loss. Each KC-46 requires a minimum crew of 3: pilot, co-pilot, and boom operator. During alert status at Prince Sultan, those crews were likely near their aircraft when the missiles hit. The Pentagon has not released casualty figures, which tells you the numbers are not zero. Air crews inside a hardened shelter that takes a direct hit from a 650-kilogram warhead do not survive. The blast wave alone would be fatal. You lose the aircraft, and you lose the crew. Replacing a KC-46 takes a year. Replacing an experienced tanker pilot takes 3 to 4 years of training pipeline. The institutional knowledge loss is worse than the hardware loss. Let me walk you through what a typical strike package looks like without tankers versus with them. A flight of 4 F-35s launching from Prince Sultan targeting Iranian missile sites near Natanz. With tanker support, the package looks like this. F-35s take off with internal fuel tanks full, external fuel tanks if the mission allows sacrificing some stealth. They fly to a predetermined refueling track over Iraq or the Persian Gulf where a KC-46 is orbiting. Each F-35 takes on 8,000 to 10,000 pounds of fuel. Now they have enough range to penetrate Iranian airspace, conduct their strike, and return to base. Total mission time, approximately 4 hours. Tanker made it possible. Without tanker support, that same mission becomes impossible. The F-35s would need to fly a direct route to minimize distance, which takes them over defended airspace where Iranian air defense systems are concentrated. They arrive at the target with minimal fuel reserves. And here's the real problem. They don't have enough fuel to conduct evasive maneuvers, engage threats, or handle any contingency. If they encounter unexpected air defenses and need to take the long way around, they run out of fuel before reaching friendly airspace. That's not a risky mission. That's a suicide mission. An American doctrine doesn't fly suicide missions. Now, let me explain what Iran actually hit at Prince Sultan because the details matter. The base, officially known as Al-Kharj, is located approximately 80 kilometers southeast of Riyadh. It's been a major U.S. Air Force hub since the 1990s. The facility has 2 runways, hardened aircraft shelters designed to protect aircraft from blast effects, and extensive fuel storage infrastructure. The tankers were parked in Type 3 hardened aircraft shelters, reinforced concrete structures designed to withstand near misses from conventional munitions. Iran's missiles didn't near miss, they scored direct hits. The shelters collapsed. The tankers inside were crushed and burned. The missiles Iran used were most likely K-bar-Shekand or Fada-2 variants. Both are precision-guided ballistic missiles with maneuverable warheads. The K-bar-Shekand has a range of approximately 150 kilometers and carries a 650-kilogram warhead. The Fada-2 is newer, faster, and even harder to intercept. Both missiles use terminal guidance that allows them to adjust their trajectory in the final seconds before impact. That's how you get direct hits on specific aircraft shelters rather than just hitting the runway. This was surgical. This was planned. And this was executed with intelligence that tells us Iran knew exactly where those tankers were parked. Here's the strategic calculation Iran just made. They didn't try to shoot down aircraft in flight or overwhelm carrier group defenses. They hit tankers on the ground where they're vulnerable, where 5 missiles eliminate capability that would take dozens of air-to-air missiles to degrade. Find the bottleneck in the enemy's logistics chain and eliminate it with precision. Let me give you the cost equation, because this is where the mathematics become brutal. Each KC-46 costs approximately $160 million 5 tankers, $800 million in destroyed aircraft. The missiles Iran fired probably cost between $1 million and $2 million each. Depending on the variant, let's say $10 million total for all 5 missiles. Iran traded $10 million in munitions for $800 million in American assets. That's an 80-to-1 cost exchange ratio in Iran's favor. But the real cost isn't the aircraft replacement value. It's the operational capability those tankers provided. You cannot replace a KC-46 quickly. Boeing's production rate is approximately 18 tankers per year across all customers. The U.S. Air Force might receive 6 to 8 new KC-46s annually if production stays on schedule, which it hasn't historically. That means replacing 5 tankers takes most of a year. During that year, American air operations are constrained by tanker availability. And here's the detail that should make Air Force logistics planners physically ill. You cannot surge tanker production the way you can surge missile production. The KC-46 is built on a modified Boeing 767 commercial airframe. Boeing doesn't stockpile 767 airframes waiting to be converted to tankers. The supply chain for a wide-body aircraft involves thousands of components from hundreds of suppliers across multiple countries. Accelerating that process requires years of preparation, not weeks. If you want to understand why the Pentagon is not showing footage of the aftermath at Prince Sultan, this is why. They cannot afford to show the American public what 5 burning tankers look like. The imagery would raise questions they don't want to answer. How did Iranian missiles penetrate Saudi air defenses? Why were 5 tankers parked close enough together that one attack could hit them all? Where are the replacement aircraft coming from? When will tanker availability return to pre-attack levels? Those questions have uncomfortable answers. Let me address the Saudi air defense question, because this is where the story gets worse. Prince Sultan is protected by Patriot PAC-3 batteries. Saudi Arabia operates 13 Patriot batteries total, and at least 2 were positioned around Prince Sultan specifically to defend against this type of attack. Those batteries have interceptor missiles, they have search radars, they have engagement radars. They detected the incoming Iranian missiles. Reports suggest they fired interceptors, and every single Iranian missile got through anyway. This is not a failure of Saudi training or readiness. This is a fundamental mismatch between the threat and the defense. The Patriot system was designed in the 1980s to intercept aircraft and early-generation ballistic missiles. The K-Bar-Shekin and Fata-2 are 4th-generation precision weapons with maneuverable warheads that change trajectory during terminal phase. The Patriot calculates an intercept point based on projected trajectory. When the target changes that trajectory 3 seconds before impact, the calculation becomes worthless. The interceptor flies to where the target was supposed to be. The target is somewhere else. Impact. Subscribe to this channel because what I'm about to explain next is not being discussed anywhere in mainstream coverage. The tanker destruction at Prince Sultan doesn't just affect missions into Iran. It affects the entire regional air posture. American aircraft based in Qatar, Kuwait, UAE, and Bahrain all rely on tanker support for extended range missions. The tankers operate from centralized bases like Prince Sultan because that's operationally efficient. One base, multiple tanker orbits covering different mission areas. Losing that concentration means the remaining tankers have to fly more sorties to cover the same missions. That increases crew fatigue, maintenance requirements, and fuel consumption. The operational tempo becomes unsustainable. Let me walk you through what the next 72 hours probably look like. The U.S. Air Force will reposition tankers from other theaters to backfill the losses. Expect tankers to arrive from Europe, possibly from the continental United States. That solves the immediate capacity problem, but creates new ones. Every tanker moved to the Middle East is a tanker, not available for missions elsewhere. If a crisis erupts in the Pacific, the tanker fleet is already stretched thin, and moving tankers takes time. And KC-46, flying from the U.S. to the Middle East, requires multiple aerial refuelings itself. The logistics are complex and slow. The Air Force will also change its basing posture, concentrating tankers at one location just proved fatal. Dispersing them across multiple bases reduces the risk of losing multiple aircraft in a single strike, but increases operational complexity. Coordinating refueling tracks becomes harder. Response times increase. This is the dilemma of force protection versus operational efficiency. You can optimize for one or the other, but not both. Here's what the official Pentagon statement said about the Prince Sultan attack. I'm quoting directly. Iranian missiles targeted coalition facilities in Saudi Arabia. Defensive measures were employed. We are assessing damage and ensuring the safety of personnel. Operations continue. Notice what that statement doesn't say. It doesn't mention tankers. It doesn't specify casualties. It doesn't provide numbers. The phrase, assessing damage, is doing enormous work there. That's Pentagon speak for the damage is bad enough that we don't want to quantify it publicly yet. Compare that statement to what Iranian media is broadcasting. They're showing satellite imagery of Prince Sultan with smoke rising from multiple locations. They're naming the aircraft destroyed. They're claiming this as a strategic victory that cripples American air power. Which narrative is closer to operational reality? The Pentagon's careful non-denial or Iran's detailed claims? I'll let you decide, but I'll note that the Pentagon hasn't released any imagery showing intact tankers or operational flight lines. Let me explain why tanker vulnerability was predictable and why this attack should not have surprised anyone paying attention. Tankers are large, slow, and parked in known locations. Every intelligence service on Earth knows where American tankers are based. The aircraft have massive radar signatures even on the ground, and they're filled with jet fuel, which makes them catastrophically vulnerable to any hit. A missile strike on a tanker isn't like hitting a fighter jet. The fuel ignites, the fire spreads. The entire aircraft becomes an inferno within minutes. You cannot save a burning tanker. The hardened shelters were supposed to protect against this. That was the theory. Build reinforced concrete structures that can absorb blast effects and protect the aircraft inside. The problem is that those shelters were designed in the 1990s to defend against threats from that era. They were not designed to withstand modern precision. Guided ballistic missiles with maneuverable warheads delivering 650-kilogram payloads directly onto the roof. The shelter design is obsolete. Iran just proved it. Here's the question. American air commanders are asking right now behind closed doors, if Iran can hit Prince Sultan with precision, what else can they hit? Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar hosts more American aircraft than any other facility in the region. Al Dhafra in the UAE hosts tankers and reconnaissance aircraft. Ali Al Salam in Kuwait hosts fighter squadrons. Every single one of those bases is within range of Iranian missiles. Every single one of them has aircraft parked in shelters that just proved inadequate. The entire regional basing structure is now understood to be vulnerable in ways that weren't operationally confirmed until March 12th. This is what I want you to understand as we close. The tanker fleet destruction at Prince Sultan is not just about 5 aircraft. It's about the operational concept that American air power has relied on for 3 decades. That concept assumed that tankers would operate from secure rear area bases, providing refueling support to strike packages hitting targets hundreds of miles away. The rear area just got hit. The tankers are gone. And the assumption of sanctuary is shattered. American F-35s and F-15s are still flying. The pilots are still trained. The weapons still work. But the range is cut in half. Missions that were routine last week are now impossible without accepting risks that doctrine considers unacceptable. That's not a temporary logistics problem. That's a strategic shift. Iran found the seam in American air operations and exploited it with 5 missiles. Not 500. 5. The efficiency is remarkable. The implications are catastrophic. And the mainstream media is showing you burning buildings without explaining that those buildings contained the aircraft that made American air superiority possible. Share this video because what you just learned won't be in tonight's news briefing. They'll mention an attack on a Saudi base. They'll quote the Pentagon's assessment. They won't tell you that 5 tankers are gone and won't be replaced for a year. They won't explain that F-35s just lost half their range. They won't do the math on how many sorties. Can't be flown now. But you have that information now. Spread it. Prince Sultan Air Base, March 12th, 2026. 5 tankers destroyed. American air power in the Middle East just got grounded in the most literal sense. The jets still fly, they just can't reach the targets anymore, and that, my friends, is how you win a war without shooting down a single fighter.